state convention in the Virginia colony. This firebrand man by the name of Patrick Henry got up, gave a speech about whether or not the United Colonies of America should declare their independence. And he concluded his speech with that line all of us know: give me liberty or give me death. Now, isn't that an unusual combination of words, liberty and death? Usually when you have one or the other, you think of one and its antithesis. What is the antithesis of liberty? Tyranny. But you know what? What is tyranny? Tyranny is death. We have tyranny in this world in two ways. Tyranny came into this world through sin. Tyranny also came to this world after sin from man against man. God's taken care of the remedy for the first tyranny. But this, my fellow citizens, this is the remedy to that second tyranny of man against man. Our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution. Every problem that we have in this country is because we've gotten away from this. And that is what I want to represent you to get us back to that basic. You want to know my specifics? I won't rattle off a laundry list, but go to my website. You can pick that up on my cards that will give it to you. And you'll see where I have written 1.5 to 3 pages that will detail where I stand on issues. Thank you very much. I appreciate your vote.
All right, Mr. Chow, what is your opinion of U.S. foreign aid? Who should get it and why? Especially to those countries such as Egypt and Pakistan, where we have have legitimate interests, but whose governments act against American interests. Do I need to read it again? Or
No, you don't. You don't. It's in my hand. I read it. We, period, need to stop all the foreign aids. Why we are still having such huge debt? But, however, we need to keep a very strong military presence all over the world to defend our country, whether overseas, domestically. So, however, we need to keep Israel as a great ally. So, never give our money to our enemies. So I stand for that very strongly and also abide by our Constitution. So thank you so much.
First of all, I don't understand why we even give Egypt money. First, it's the only ally, the only country in the Middle East that is our friend and needs money is Israel. And people don't understand the way that Israel gets money from the United States, unlike other countries. For example, Egypt and the Palestinian Authority, they actually get cash to their bank account. They actually get a wire transfer. In Israel, they work the other way around and they say, here we go, we give you a line of credit. And with that line of credit, you can only buy American products made in America from American companies. So when you go to Israel, you see Hummers, you see M16s, you see Berettas, you see everything that America has because they have to buy from American-made products. If you go to Egypt, if you go to the Palestinians, if you go to any other country in the world, they carry their military, carry AK-47 because they don't need it. They get the cash and then they can do with that cash whatever they want to. They can buy bombs with it, they can do buy MiGs, buy AK-47, and that's the difference. So we need to defund everyone except our ally in the Middle East, which is Israel.
One minute.
One question. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe the government should be limited by the specified enumerated powers in that document. Can anybody here tell me where our Congress is authorized to take money from us and give it to anybody else. It is not there. Now, if what Itamar is saying about Israel, where we give a line of credit and they buy products from us, where basically the money's coming back to us, that's one thing. But just free gratis giving out money, you cannot buy love. Despite what the Beatles say, money can't buy you love, money can't buy us respect. The world recognizes one thing and one thing only in terms of respect, and that's strength. That's why we need to have a strong economy and a strong military. We back it up with that, we'll have the respect, and we can keep our money here. Thank you.
Didn't Joe get a
It was the first one.
Okay.
Stop, period.
Three.
Just trying to help you out. We want you to lose.
Nearly every public official is faced with questions of public debt. What is your opinion of using debt and how should it be utilized?
First of all, I understand why we're in debt. Our income tax should cover everything. The only problem that we're in debt is A, we have entitlements that we need to cancel, and we have the money that we're loaning to other countries. We're loaning money with interest from China and other countries, and we give it to other countries for free or with no interest. We loan it to them. So we shouldn't be in debt because we have our income tax more than cover the government expense. If you go back to the rules of the Constitution, if you go back to not for canceling the foreign aid to other countries and welfare and Section 8. That's what I think about the debt.
Okay.
The reason our country is in crisis is because we have such a big government. Since Obama took office 3 years ago, he added 253,000 federal civilian jobs. We need to cut all of those. On top of that, at least 10%. Then we need to review all the programs, over 10,000 programs in 682 departments, in the sub-departments. We need to sunset most of those, scale back what's left. We need to take away all the earmarks. Look at our opponent. Use the earmarks money for 287. For 20 years, the road still not complete. So we need to stop the spending, have a smaller government, and lower taxes, bring back our country we all love. Go, stop Obama, unite together.
This is the question here. Yeah. Can I take a second to reread it?
Yep, we can read it for you.
Using debt. Don't. End of story. You know the one good thing about our economy right now? There is something good. It is exposing Keynesian economics to be the fraud that it is. And I am encouraged because how many people here are familiar with the Austrian School of Economics? Men such as Friedrich Hayek, Ludwig von Mises. I am a devotee of their philosophy. And we are beginning to see a resurgence of that because everything those distinguished men wrote about economics is being shown to have been right on target. And so therefore, public debt should not be used. You stop spending, you only spend what you take in. And if we get a chance to talk about tax issues, we can talk about doing away with the income tax system altogether and replacing it with the fair tax later on. If not, talk to me later and I expound upon that even more. But that's it. No debt, period, because that will bury us. We do not want to end up looking like Greece, Spain, Italy, Ireland, any of those other countries of Europe. Let's keep it under control, just like our family.
Thank you. Gilmore doesn't want to respond.
Okay. Number 20.
I don't believe that's been asked before, has it?
Better not.
Given the Obama administration's significant budget deficits, how would you address the deficits and And what specific budget reduction proposals do you support and why?
Oh, good. We just said we was going to talk back taxes, didn't we? All right. Budget deficit reduction has to start with the money that you bring in. And we are oppressing individuals and businesses across this land with a Marxist socialist tax system. Our income tax system is one of the 10 planks of Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. It was the 14th plank of the American Socialist Party in the 1928 campaign. This idea of robbing us, which Jefferson said in his first inaugural address, a wise and frugal government will not take from the mouths the bread it has earned, and that is what our income tax is. And therefore, the government thinks they can just keep taking more and more and more of what we have earned and spend it plus more going into debt. Deficit reduction starts with getting your spending under control and cutting out all the unconstitutional programs that Joe talked about, and then take a look at where you're getting your revenue from. We need to have a revenue system that encourages production, encourages economic growth, expands the tax base, and when you do that, you bring in more money. Guess what? You pay down debt. What are you doing with any extra money you get right now? How many people are trying to pay down their debt? You know, how many people are putting money into your 401k loans, or are you taking out 401k loans to pay off higher levels of debt? People are doing, I'm in the payroll and benefit business in my firm. And I see that happening all the time. People are taking money out of their 401k instead of putting money in because the economy and the stock market stinks to pay off higher levels of debt. They're trying to reduce their deficits. If we think that way, what is wrong with our government not thinking the same way? And that's the type of mentality we need to have in a representative in our government.
All these many years I have been in business, the principle is you'll never spend more money than you earn. So Obama government just ridiculously spent so much money. Since he took office, he added $6 trillion. Do you know how much money we need to pay back as debt service every year? $1.2 trillion just for the debt service. So we need, first of all, as what I said earlier, we need to cut, review all the programs, stop spending. That's the only way we can solve the problem. But in the same time, we have to put more people back to work, take away all the benefit, and encourage them to work. Lower taxes, spur the economy, bring back the job, more people work, more people pay taxes. That's the only way we can solve the current issues.
It's pretty much the last question is cutting the entitlements, and the way that our country became is rewarding the lazy, rewarding the people that want to live on other people's expense, and punishing the hardworking people, punishing the successful people, punishing the people that want to work 18 hours a day to make something out of themselves, and they're taking their money and rewarding the people that want to live off them. So first of all, cut entitlements. Second of all, in the current government that we have right now, we pretty much let the cat watch his own milk. And our politicians, for example, a U.S. congressman salary is $173,000 a year. When our country started, it was a part-time job. And it got to a point that they're making the elite of the elite of the elite, and they vote for their own raises. They vote for their own money, which is not okay with me. We need to cut it as well. We need to go back to what it was. We need to go back to the country we used to be, and that's cutting the entitlements and cutting our expenses.
30 seconds.
I got 30 seconds on it. I just had to rebut, I get 30 more seconds. In a word,
25 now.
how do we reduce the deficit? Is a slogan of my campaign, a return to constitutionality. As I said in the very first time I was up here speaking, that is, return our government to the confines of the enumerated powers of our Constitution. If we do that, we don't have to worry about deficit spending. And any extra money we got coming in, we can then start applying to the debt and get us out of debt, just like all of us are trying to do in our families. And so again, The solution to our deficit is a reduction of unconstitutional spending. Thank you.
Number 22. Would you support legislation denying automatic citizenship to anchor babies to non-citizens? You want to read that? Is there a constitutional basis for such legislation?
Would you support legislation denying automatic citizenship to anchor babies to non-citizens? Is there a constitutional basis for such legislation?
Certainly, I would not offer citizenship to anybody who was not legal in the United States. We need to take away the anchor babies, because I always propose either parents need to be citizen or permanent resident. If not, they cannot be anchor babies. They cannot be United citizen. So in the Amendment 14, they talk about equal protection, and I think it's so wrong. I think the justice just interpreted in a wrong way. So we need to stop this. We definitely need constitutional amendment to amend quite different areas, including this. So I'm really against anchor babies.
I have a very short answer for that. I'm against anything that is automatic except rifles. So,
Citizenship is a very precious thing, and it's something which is being devalued every day with the things that our government and our courts are dealing with. And one of them is this idea of anchor babies. As Joel pointed out, the 14th Amendment has been misinterpreted, misapplied, and abused. That's not what was done. And that's why when we talk about being a constitutionalist, I'm not a living, breathing constitutionalist, I am a originalist constitutionalist. And you go back to what that type of person was, it says you look at the original meaning of what the Constitution says and what the original meaning of the amendments were when they were put in place. And the way it is applied today is not what that amendment was for. Anchor babies should not be allowed. You have to have at least one parent, at least one, to be a citizen. And if not, then you need to go through the naturalization process, just like anybody else who would want to immigrate to this country and become one of us, an American. Not hyphenated American, American. Thank you.
I understand, and Mr. Kuchar is a constitutionalist. At least he claimed he is like that. But if we don't clarify this amendment, how can we solve the problem? Because everybody interprets that in a different way. So the Constitution was done back to 1787, 224 years ago. Things changed, technology changed. You have to make necessary amendment. First of all, I think we need to take away Amendment 27 and also clarify this Amendment 14.
Your turn, go.
got me all excited. 19.
Given the Obama administration's ignoring the U.S. Constitution, what would your priorities be to counter his moves, and how would you implement same?
I'm a very physical person. I'll go to office and I put my boot up his behind and show him Texas style how we get things done. I think joining forces with people like Alan West and grouping the people that really care for the country to put our country back and go against Obama. Continue the impeachment process against him. As I said, I do have the long-term birth certificate. It's on YouTube. And impeach him, impeach everything, and by impeaching him, cancel everything he voted for and everything, all the executive orders he endorsed and signed. And if that doesn't work, as I said, show him how we do it in Texas.
The biggest problem since Obama took office is the abuse of executive orders. Since he took office, he already issued more than 1,000 executive orders, and he will continue to do that. So if without constitution amendment, how can we stop him? So we do need constitutional amendment for executive orders to stop him to abuse again, become so intrusive in our personal lives, and we need to get rid of Obamacare. That's another abusive of Commerce Clause. So we need to stop all those things before we can bring back the country we will love.
It is true, executive orders have gotten out of hand. President Obama has said, if Congress won't do it, I'll do it without them through executive orders. I remember being a member of this body a year ago and hearing an excellent list of articles of impeachment that you had written up, that you delivered to our current representative, to take to him with the request that he submit this and see about getting it through. It got taken to Washington, I presume, and got deep-sixed. How do we counter it? Have somebody in your representative who is not afraid of his career, who doesn't care about re-election, but cares about one thing, returning us to that constitutional base. And if it means drawing up articles of impeachment and getting up and standing on that and hollering about it until somebody either shuts you down or you get it done, then that's what you do. And so we have got to get us back to the framework of what is Congress's job, and that is to guard our republic against such actions.
What's the best way to beat a Muslim that hates America more than an Israeli former special forces that loves America more than anything else in the world?
Oh, my turn? Oh. Yeah. My turn to draw? Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I kind of get back and forth here. You want those? One at a time, right? All right, number 5. This is a good one.
In your view, what is the primary purpose of the office you are seeking?
The House of Representatives is to be a house of the people, and it is to represent the welfare of the people that put you there. And I think the purpose of a representative basically is to be the guardian of our freedom and our liberties, which our Constitution guarantees to us. Now, he or she is one of 435 others in that body, and he is there, or she is there, to be our shield, our protector, against the encroachment of our freedom and our liberties from those other 434 clowns. And when they start to do something that is going to impinge upon our guaranteed rights, our unalienable rights, then it is their responsibility to, as in the book of Nehemiah, to stand in the gap to protect us from that. And that when they get bulldozed over by the majority, which, as we know, happens, to then sound the alarm back to us and say, hey, I have fought against this. I have tried, and I was not successful because I didn't have the numbers. Watch out, here it comes. Get the word out to everybody that you know in every other district across this country and get them, after their representatives, to switch sides and join me in protecting your freedom and liberties. That is the responsibility of a representative. And also, according to our First Amendment, where we have the right of redress of grievances against the government when it so encroaches, to be our spokesman or our tunnel, if you will, to present that grievance to the others that make up that government. That is the first and foremost Yes. Responsibility, thank you, of a representative. And that responsibility also includes fidelity to the Constitution, which you take an oath to uphold.
The House representative, the main duty is to fight for your best interests, whether protect you individually, your personal life, your personal property, and come to see you, communicate with you at all time, not just at election time, like our opponent. I will fight for you. I will be like Alan West, Marco Rubio, since I was mayor for 6 years. Also, I have a broader business experience, so I know how to get things done, how to negotiate, how to be soft, how to be tough, get what I want to achieve. So I will be the best person to represent you. So you can count on me. I have a great track record, so you can go check me out. It's chow time.
It's a very simple answer. I mean, the House of Representatives, we're representative of our people. And we need to vote and act by our people. We need to go and listen to what they say. We need to interact with their people, and that's the whole point of the Congress is to be the voice. And we're a country of about 320 million people. We can't raise, not 320 million people can raise their voice, so that's why they elect, and that's what the representative needs to do. Represent is the constituents. And I promise you, with my southern drawl, when I go in the room and talk, people usually listen.
Representatives, as we said, all of us represent. And if you're going to represent, you got to know how to represent. And how do we represent? We represent through our Constitution. Joe has said, based on his business experience, he makes him the best candidate for being your representative. I've been a businessman too, as well as several other things. But if you're going to represent people, you've got to know the Constitution, our heritage, our history, and the things behind it, inside and out. Go to my website, read what I've written, go to my Facebook, you'll find out I have that broadest and deepest knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Do we have closing 1 minute?
You will in a minute. I'm going to bring you back up, but I want to do some other things. You can stay right here if you want to.
They
Okay.
got to look at us.
Well, at least you don't have a skirt on or anything.
No, we don't. I'm gonna walk out.
I wanted to thank these congressional candidates for their time and their honest, forthright answers. We appreciate it very, very much. Thank you so much. I've kind of been looking around the room, and I think we have a few candidates in the room for other offices. If you're a candidate for another office within the county, state, or country, raise your hand, please. Indeed, I see 3. I see 4, but we're going to ignore Amy.
Don't
Hang
ignore
on,
her.
hang
She'll
on.
get on a
If you
chair.
gentlemen would like to come up, and lady would like to come up and tell who you are and what office you're running for, I invite you to come on up and do that. We'll give you each about 3 minutes. I think we've got plenty of time if everybody's okay.
I'm not running the time, so
Did you join the civil service?
I didn't actually have because he was working.
Come on up, Judge.
I just got a part-time job.
Everybody will introduce themselves and then we'll tell you what office they're running for.
Howdy, folks. My name is Steve Smith. I'm a district judge in Brazos County. Let me just tell you quickly a little bit about myself. I was conceived in July of 1951
We didn't need to know that.
by 2 people I don't know and I've never met. Fortunately for me, Bill and Maxine Smith wanted to adopt a child after having lost their child to leukemia. I'm so glad that 1952 is not 1992, or I might not be here to speak to you tonight. I'm running for Chief Justice of the 10th Court of Appeals, and there's a lot of reasons I'm running. I'm not going to go into them specifically tonight. I'm running against an incumbent, and I don't do that lightly. What I've heard tonight is what I try to do every day. It's the oath I've taken every time I've served as a judge. And it's preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of Texas. As I believe General, my mind's gone blank, MacArthur said, to paraphrase him, I try to do my duty as God gives me the right to see that duty every single day. I'm a conservative. I told somebody earlier today that I have a picture of myself in first grade with the Nixon Lodge button on. So if you doubt my Republican credentials, you can check that. And in 1982, I ran as a Republican in Brazos County when we had a Democratic congressman named Phil Grant. So I would appreciate your vote and support. I'll be glad to talk with you in more specifics about my candidacy and about why I'm running. Thank you for letting me be here tonight, and also be thankful that you have a choice of good, decent candidates for your U.S. Congress seat. Thank you.
Hang on, my camera thing is kind of back here. I'll just let you.
Start rattling it off.
I can wait. Go. Amy Hedke, I'm running for Red Oak City Council, so a lot of this may not apply to you specifically, but if you know anybody in the Red Oak area, please pass the word along. I am not running against one person, I'm running against a machine. That includes former city councilmen, current businessmen, and the press. All of my issues are basically your core issues. I'm not worried about the potholes in the road. I am worried about liberty at the local level, transparency in government, fiscal responsibility, local businesses, representing and reporting to the people, our little 1,200 square foot library that's supposed to serve 10,000 people, eminent domain and involuntary annexations, and lowering taxes, not just promising to not raise them. I know I can't promise all of those things in just one election when I'm the only one that stepped up to run against any of the 3 people that are up for election. I can't run against them all. If you guys know anybody else who would be interested in running, there will be another election next year, and if I have to paint over my signs again, I can do that. But anyway, I appreciate your support. I appreciate you spreading the word. And like I said, if you know anyone in Red Oak, bend their ear. Thanks.
How much time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Dude, talk fast.
2 or 3. On the little red sign. Most people know me and Rodney Ramsey. I'm running for DA. Long and short of it is, I wasn't going to run, but nobody else will, and we need a new DA. The fact is, we have an incumbent in the office. Can't say anything bad about him, but he doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have any management experience. He doesn't have the administrative experience. He's been in government service all his life, and I've worked hard, dug ditches, put on roofs, and put myself through college and law school. I run a private practice. I have my wife to balance my checkbook for me, and a CPA to do my taxes. But I know what it takes to run an office. I've got supervisory and administrative experience. I run large and small operations in the private sector and in the government sector. More importantly, we need to bring Ellis County back to a better understanding of justice. We need an open file policy. We're wasting our tax dollars. We're wasting our time. We're giving deferred adjudication to child molesters. And I can go on and only have 2 minutes. It's going to be on the website, RodneyPatRamseyForDA.com. I need your vote. I need your support. I've been coming to the meetings off and on. I haven't been in the last couple of years, I guess, maybe, but I've been busy, and that's my excuse. You know, you make time for what you need to do.
But don't forget how important the tea parties are and what you do here. I also asked for a little time at the end tonight to speak on, not my race, but just every time I come to a tea party meeting, I get motivated. And I like to share a few things with you. So if maybe they'll be gracious enough to give me a couple more minutes so I can rant and rave on the government, the county, and state level, not just my job. But I need your votes. Please vote for me and consider me when it comes time for the election. Thank you.
Sorry, I missed you.
Hi, I'm Bob Holly, and I'm running for Commissioner Precinct 1. For you that don't know, that's the east side of the county, and may not be many in here from the east side. Very good. But I'm retired, 36 years law enforcement. I'm not running for the money of the job, I'm running for the job. My opponent can't tell you that. He has to have a job, because he's a young man. If they took the salary away, I'd still run. I know that sounds stupid, but I would, because of the different things that are happening. I believe in term limits. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I will not run more than 2 terms. There's no longer for career commissioners in our court. We look at Ron Brown and we know what we got when we got Ron Brown. Some of you may like him, some of you may not. But he's a good old boy now. He's a politician. We don't need politicians in the court. We need to have plans to reduce spending and balance the budget. We got a commissioner who made a press release back in December, said Ellis County is in a good place. I don't think a tax increase and a $2 million deficit is a good place for us to be. We made a lot of promises in this past few years. They've built a juvenile center, a training center for the sheriff's office, a new sub-courthouse in Ennis. And all that's fine if you got a way to pay for it. But we didn't. And nor do we have the money to maintain it. That's part of that $2 million deficit we have. This type of spending, good old boy taxes, got to stop. Commissioner Precinct 1 just inherited 50 new miles of roadway, and all that's Bristol. Commissioner Robinson has already started resurfacing the roads out there for whatever reason. And but the tax, our budget went in October of the year. The new precincts weren't established until 11/28. So that tax money he's using to resurface those roads is taken away from Ferris, Palmer, Garrett, Waxahachie, and Ennis. That money was delegated to those roads. If you're content with what you got in the courthouse, you need to elect Robinson. But if you're not content with what you got, you need to elect me and help me bring back this county to a balanced budget with transparency, accountability. And I forgot the other word. I'm a repair right here. But I need your vote. If you won't change, there's only going to be one chance to change this county courthouse, and that's May 29th, and I request. I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, do any of you have specific questions you would like to ask the state representative and congressional candidates?
Well, I'm just,
Jimmy, you always have a question.
raise your hand if you do.
Yeah, raise your hand if you do. You're a candidate.
I can't ask another candidate?
Well, yeah, I guess you can. Why don't the 5 of you come back up here, and then we'll see if there are some questions that candidates want to ask. And you can ask a question, TJ.
We haven't had a knockdown yet.
Well, this is for the U.S., for the congressional
You can
candidate.
ask, TJ, I promise you.
They're going to represent me too.
I know they Okay, what's your answer? Well, it might help so they can hear.
My question for you three is, how would you vote on NDAA National Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act, and what would you do about the Federal Reserve?
Three questions.
That's 3 questions.
It's a 3-part question.
I'll ask one of those questions.
I figured you probably would.
Okay, do you all know how you want to answer that? All 3 of you? Okay. You have your answer?
Let me go first.
Okay.
I come first. I go from the back, okay? So as far as the Patriot Act, I think it's very intrusive. So we want to make sure federal government, can only do that limitedly in the special occasion, like during the time of war. So as far as the third question, you asked the third. The NDAA, National Defense Act,
National Defense Authorization Act.
Authorization Act. So really what we need to do is protect everybody's interest. So however, we need to keep a very, very strong military, not reducing the benefit for all our military personnel. Third question.
What would you do about the Federal Reserve? What would you like to do about the Federal Reserve?
We need to really review the Federal Reserve. As a matter of fact, all of you know what's the function for Federal Reserve. There's a Federal Reserve basically is set up the monetary policy, banking policy, and then set up all the regulations for the banking system. As a matter of fact, all the member banks is just all the bank, you're banking with are the members. The chairperson normally is a prominent chairman of business people. And however, there's always room to review it. But one thing you might not know is, every year, as you know, all the money you deposit in the bank is federal government. Those money has not been spent. It still accrue those interest. So like last year, Federal Reserve Bank give back $70 billion back to our United States Treasury. So something I want to educate everybody a little bit. So I think we need to review the Federal Reserve, but do not abolish Federal Reserve. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3. NDAA. The Constitution says that Congress must authorize a funding for the military every 2 years, that we cannot have a standing army. That's the purpose of the National Defense Authorization Act. However, this last time around, our wonderful senator from Arizona, Senator John McCain, a Republican, and another gentleman from the other side of the aisle, decided to put into that act this thing called where if you are determined to be a terrorist, suspected of terrorism, or a supporter or friend of terrorists, you can be declared a danger to this country and be arrested and detained indefinitely, not by the police, by the military. That is a violation of our 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights. Clearly a violation of those. And therefore, if that is in the bill, I would not have voted for it, because it is a direct assault upon our individual freedom and liberty. And then you know what happened just recently? Joe Lieberman and another Republican representative from Pennsylvania came out with the Enemy Expatriation Act. How many have heard about that? Just a few. All right, let me educate you on that. They have introduced this bill. It has not been passed yet, but it is in the Congress that states that if you are so determined and detained as an enemy, the government will have the authority to strip you of your citizenship. How about that?
Woohoo!
That cannot be allowed to stand, and that's why we need constitutionally minded people in the Congress to stop that kind of nonsense. So that's the NDAA. Second question was the
Patriot Act.
Patriot Act. Goes right along with the Enemy Expatriation Act. It gives the government too much authority, too much power to interfere and to intrude into our private lives. And they are just building on that with more and more. SOFA and all these other things they've come out with lately. And we need to have people that respect the liberty and the individual rights of us citizens who will stand up and say, I don't care about re-election, I don't care about my career, all I care about is the freedom and liberties that was passed on to us, that we see that it is passed on to our children and grandchildren. All right, third thing, Federal Reserve. First of all, needs to be audited. Clearly. Second, since I said before, I am a strong follower of the Austrian School of Economics, and those of you that are familiar with Ludwig von Mises' position, as well as Hayek's, they were in favor of free market banking like what we used to have prior to 1913. And that if you go back to that, we can get rid of this boom and bust cycle that the Federal Reserve has created ever since it came into existence. Now, is that going to be an easy thing to do? No. Will we probably get it done? Probably not. But we need somebody raising the issue and putting forth the arguments, and maybe we'll get enough people to say, you know what? We need to get rid of the Federal Reserve and go back to the way we used to do it and get rid of this crazy boom and bust cycles, because the Federal Reserve is answerable to nobody. And in this country, we, the citizens, are sovereign. Not some bureaucrat, not some agency, not even our elected representatives. We are sovereign, and certainly not an unelected, unaccountable group such as the Federal Reserve.
Any of y'all, but did you feel like you wanted to say, preach it, brother?
I started out as a preacher.
Again, it's pretty simple. Federal Reserve needs to be audited frequently. We could see that the GSA problems, that they can just do whatever the heck they want to do with the money. It's our money, and it takes years and years and years until somebody finally finds out about it. And the scary thing about it is nobody gets punished. Nobody is accounted for that. Regarding the Patriot Act and the NDAA, I oppose both of them. It's scary tactics of the government using terrorism to try to control people that oppose the government. And trust me, I fought terrorism for over 10 years. I got shot at. I got 2 bullets went through my back. That's not the way you fight terrorism through NDAA and Patriot Act. That's the way to scare the people from the government, and that's not the way it should be. The government needs to be afraid from the people, not the people from the government.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for the state representative candidates?
I'd just like to say something about the GSA. Isn't it funny how they can violate our Constitution, but the man pulls the Fifth Amendment and whenever he's found guilty over this GSA thing?
Yeah, right.
I
believe the church lady said, how convenient.
I don't know about y'all, but I am sick to death of seeing that gray, curly-haired chest guy sitting in that bathtub.
I want to see the Photoshop with him and Barry in the bathtub.
Yes, sir.
My question is to everybody that's running for office. Are you actually going to read the bills before you sign off on them? Because there was the Obamacare that got passed that everybody said, well, we didn't read it, we didn't know what was in it, and there are so many things in there that need to be repealed. And number 2, are you aware of the law that was just passed that if Secret Service deems that you are a threat to somebody that's running for office or the president, that you are now in a no free speech zone, and that if they determine that you're in a no free speech zone and they want to press charges, it's a felony charge up to a year in prison. Did anybody know about that?
Yes.
This just got passed. So, and then finally, do you believe that there should be a test that you guys should have to take after you read the bill, and that you have to pass the test before you can actually vote on the test?
I'm thinking a touche is in order on that one. What do y'all think?
Can anybody hear me? Can everybody hear me without the microphone? Like I said, being a preacher, I got a big mouth. Actually, read the bill. Let's see, to quote Nancy Pelosi, are you serious? I'll tell you this, I'm not your representative yet. I read 80% of the Obamacare bill online. And I wasn't even in Congress, because working in the payroll and benefits world, that was going to have a direct impact on what I had to be up on. And I didn't get more than 28 pages, and I said, we got trouble.
Yeah.
We got big, serious trouble. Then you read the rest. How many of you read any of it? Was that not the biggest bunch of gobbledygook mess you ever read? Do you know what Montesquieu, who wrote Spirit of Laws, and Madison said about legislation? It should be to the point, clear, understandable, simple, and to the point where the average citizen can read it and understand it.
Right.
And so yes, I will read before I vote. And now about taking the test, and you know if we did that, the good point is, it takes so long to get all that done, we pass less laws. So maybe that's a good thing. But I think, you know what, you ought to be able to say, are you confident? Because we got people out there that are voting and I think, this is so complicated. I know, and I've heard you speak. I know you don't know what you're doing. So perhaps that's not a bad idea, one to consider.
When Mr. Smith went to Washington, he did a pretty good job, and maybe what we should do when the Obamacare bill comes up is stand up and read the whole bill before Congress.
Definitely. You need to read the bill before you sign it. But however, just like Obamacare, there are more than 2,000 pages, 2,700 pages. And also, you are not in the insurance field. You may not even understand the terms. Then they will refer this back to the other area. A lot of time, it's not an ordinary person can really comprehend. So definitely, I am an insurance agent. I will read it. The other things, I have been mayor of Addison for 6 years. So I read everything I signed. So at the beginning, it's kind of difficult. I might need to look into dictionary. I'm very honest. Some of those terminology you might not understand. So I'm the hardworking person. I'm willing to do that. Also, we will have enough staff to help in the process. So definitely, you can count on me.
Regarding the test, I actually think every representative and every elected official needs to have a test on the history of America and knowledge of America before, because if we would have that, we wouldn't have Obama in office, because he thinks we have 57 states.